It's August 21st, but I'm getting ready to plant. We're thinking, hey, the season's getting to its end, but there's some really great crops that grow well in the fall and into the early winter time. And today we're going to plant some of those. We're going to look at an area of our yard that's kind of been neglected, and it's on the south border of our house, and you can see it's kind of a narrow alleyway in here. We have some pretty good growing beds in here that haven't been used. So I thought, well, why don't we till these up and get them back in farming condition? One of the things that my wife loves to grow and plant is flowers. And I thought, well, they look really pretty to have flowers, but I'm not much of a flower guy. So what type of flower could we plant for her? Some of the best type of flowers that I know how to grow is right here. And these are broccoli. And they're a type of flower. They're also a flower that we can eat. And so that's the type of stuff I really love to grow. So what I'm going to do is plant that neglected area and refurbish that area into a beautiful field of broccoli. Let me show you that broccoli. Ta-da! I have the broccoli seed in my hand. Well, truth is I just went and got it because I forgot to bring it. Here it is. And this broccoli is from Johnny's Seed, and it's called Emerald Crown. It's a really good broccoli for the fall time and the winter time, and should be planted around the end of summer. In 60 to 70 days, which is around Thanksgiving time, this broccoli should be ready to harvest and go on the Thanksgiving table. It'd be a great gift to give my wife some beautifully grown broccoli right out of her own backyard. And to make that beautiful dream happen, now the hard work begins. Well, the good news is that we have some cloud cover today, so that'll make things a little bit easier. It's still in the 90 degrees every day, so it's pretty hot out here. But that'll help the broccoli get germinated well, and as it starts to cool down, the broccoli will really enjoy that. And hopefully we'll produce some really big, beautiful heads in those cooler temperatures through the fall. Well, the first thing we need to do then is plow our field here. In here we just have some grass and weeds, but we're going to start the field right here at the edge of the strawberries. And we're going to take out these plants right here. If you pull it off there, oh, it smells like fresh tacos. This used to be our fresh cilantro, but it's fulfilled its mission for our garden this year. So we're going to pull those out and start plowing the ground this way. We've come about just a little under 10 feet here. Now that was the easy part because this had already kind of been pre-tilled from when we planted the cilantro. But now we're headed into wild country over here, unknown territory. And the other thing about that area is that it had a little bit more water in it. You can see here that the soil gets a lot drier over into this area. That's going to make it a little bit harder, but we're used to hard things, so we'll bust our way through it. We're not plowing it in a way that you would normally think, like with a horse-drawn plow. We're almost rototilling. Here's a picture of our big rototiller. And if you look at the blades on that rototiller, they're about the same size as this. We can only cut about 2.5 inches out of this little field at a time. But essentially what we're doing is we're hand rototilling the ground. It makes it a really fluffy, well churned up bed where the seeds can flourish. So there's a lot of easy parts and fun parts coming, but we still got to get through this hard part, and this is definitely the hardest part. Boy, I guess it's hotter out here than it looks, even with those clouds. Oh boy, we're working hard, huh? But you know, on the farm, when we do the ground prep with the big plows and the big rototillers, we use the biggest tractors we have because it is the hardest work. And it takes a lot of horsepower to turn over that soil. And then later on, the lighter tractors come in and do some weeding, fertilizing, watering, even harvesting. This strip is a little bit wide right here, so it takes more time. But as we move towards the corner of the fence, you can see it gets a little bit skinnier. Probably start moving a little bit faster if I'm not too tired. All right, so while we're taking a little break here, we're making good progress. Probably a little bit over halfway done, maybe 55 to 60%. And one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to gather up all these remnants of the grass shafts and roots. And these have a really good habit of replanting themselves as soon as we put the water to this spot. So the grass comes back pretty strong, so we're trying to get the majority of it out. We probably can't get all of it out, but if we can get most of it, then that'll really help us. Well, we're making good progress. This thing is heavy to run. It does a really good job at breaking up the soil. There's not much else that can compete with a heavy bludgeon pickaxe like this to break in to the compacted soil like that. But at the same time, it can cause a lot of damage to things you don't want to hit as well. Here, as we're coming up to this sprinkler head, and we carefully went around it with this because it has a 1/2-inch line that connects this. So we could have easily cut right through that just in one fell swoop. So that's something you might want to be aware of before you start a project like this. We're only going about 6 inches deep, so we're not going deep enough to hit any electrical lines to the house or anything of large significance, but occasionally there are some sprinkler heads and sprinkler pipes that might be in the way. Let's keep going. Well, thank heavens, you guys, we got done plowing the ground, and that was the hardest part. Now what we're going to do is kind of just rake it out level and make a nice seed bed here in preparation for our fertilizer and our seed. But there's a lot of clumps in the soil where we were pickaxing. We're trying to get the soil to look something like this area that's been tilled before, where it's pretty soft and there isn't many clumps. It makes it really easy for the seeds to germinate, get the sunlight, wrap the moisture around them. But when we get these big clumps in here, they act like rocks where they get in the way of all those wonderful things happening. So what we'd like to do, if we could, is use our rake to mash them up, almost like mashed potatoes. Try to break them up by tilling and plowing the ground up. As we've loosened up all that hard pan, compacted soil that hasn't been roughed up in many, many years, the water will help soften them as we go forward. But you can imagine the little tiny seedling. It's hard for them to get started in something that's almost as hard as concrete. So by loosening up the soil, we provide them a nice, soft, tender bed to get their baby roots started. The soil is kind of a clayish loam, so it grows pretty good stuff once it gets started, but sometimes that clay makes it hard for things to get started. All right, you guys, it's about 2 o'clock out here now. It's getting real hot and we're pretty tired after doing all this. So take a little break. Welcome back this evening now. We're going to do some fertilizing on this before we plant our seeds. I don't know the last time that old flower bed has been fertilized. It's probably been a while, if ever. We're going to give it some general fertilization here. We have some 13-13-13, and this is your all-purpose. And this stuff breaks down pretty quick, and it'll give them a charge in the beginning. Kind of act like a shake and burger and fries over at the restaurant. And the second thing we're going to mix in with it here is a little bit of a long-term release fertilizer. And this is also another all-purpose one with kind of a even mix of everything. But the thing about this one is that it's going to be breaking down over months. And so it'll feed them kind of towards the end of their race. And it's going to act more like a good Thanksgiving dinner. So what we're going to do is give about a 50-50 mix. So we'll take our cup here and we'll mix up a batch. Got about 5 pounds of fertilizer mixed up here. So let's begin. Just going to come along here with our 1 cup here and just kind of make it look like it snows along here. Like a hailstorm came through and it looked like it left a layer of hail on the ground. We don't want to leave it there. We want to take the rake and we want to mix it into the surface of the soil. About 2 to 3 inches deep should be adequate enough. We're ready to put the seeds in here. So we're only planting one variety of broccoli. We only have 1 seed to deal with, but we need to know where to put it. So we're just going to put a line here, and we're coming a little bit out from the fence because the broccoli leaves get kind of big and they need some space. And we have lots of space out here. And also because we're along the fence here, we have some extra shade going on. So I want to get them out here just a little bit further to see if they can catch some of that sunlight. So we're going to be planting them here. I'll open one up for you. They're probably about a 1/16 inch in diameter. We need to know how deep to plant these because they're such a small seed. Generally speaking, about the size of the seed is about how much soil they need over top of them, if not more. They need to be shallow enough, have the power to push all the soil off the top of them as they germinate. And they need to be deep enough so that they can be in the moisture with the water so that they can soften up and germinate. So with seeds that small, like carrots and cabbages, it's kind of a hard thing because the optimal place in the soil is about 1/4 inch deep. It can go as much as a 1/2 inch deep. On the farm, we have a planter that comes along and does all this for us. It sets the depth and it sets how often to plant the seeds. So for example, broccoli, it might put them in every 3 to 4 inches so that you have about 3 to 4 plants growing every foot. Sometimes some of them don't come up. So we end up having maybe an average of 2 plants per foot. Now, in the end, we want 1 plant per foot. So we can come along later and thin out the ones we don't want. But it's hard to come back and plant later. So what we're going to do is do just like the planter. We're going to copy it in a manual way. We're going to drop a seed about every 3 to 4 inches in here. Now, I'm not as accurate as the planter. I can feel in my fingers that I'm dropping 2 at a time sometimes. But again, it's going to be okay if we get extras in there because we can come back and thin them. And I think there's probably about 100 to 200 seeds in that row of 26 feet. So there's more than we need, but we're hoping that we can get a good crop come up. So what we need to do now is kind of go along and bury them and tamp them in, just like the pack wheel would do on the planter that we use at the farm. Some dirt over the top, not much. It doesn't need much. Like I said, we're looking for 1/4 inch, and that really isn't very much. Now, after we brush over a section, we're just going to come along with my fist, and we're just going to tamp it nicely, pack it nicely. And we don't need to hammer it in, just a nice packing because we're just tucking these in like you would tuck a child in for bedtime. Just a nice tight blanket wrapped around them. So the last step that we need to do is install the water line. So we have this existing water line, and we're just going to tie right into it with our brand new one. Now the water line that we're using is a 1/2 inch soaker hose that you can pick up at your local Lowe's or Home Depot. These hoses will come with a whole host of fittings. We're going to be using a T right here, and then when we cut it at the end over there, we're going to be using an end cap. Pretty simple. So let's make our cut right here. Now I can see where I planted the line here, and I think I would like the soaker hose to run just above it, maybe 2 or 3 inches, so that when the seeds germinate, the soaker hose is not directly on top of them. It's just a little bit to their north. I'm going to take my little fitting there, and if the seeds are planted right here-ish, then I think I want my hose to run a couple inches above them. So that means I will cut this hose about right there. And I'll try not to cut my finger. Now these things are pretty simple. You can push the hose in, but when you try to push it out, it seals around it because it kind of has a tooth that it grabs onto. So we'll do that. We'll push it on, wiggle it on there, and we'll do the same with this existing one right here. So now we're ready to hook on our new piece of hose right here. So now we're just going to go roll this hose out to the end and put the cap on it. It's only been about 8 minutes. You can already see that it's putting out good water here. So it's getting dark. We're just going to leave this running all night, and plus it'll water the rest of our vegetables. And by the morning, we should have about a 16 to 18 inch swath of water there, and that'll get those seeds coming fast. That completes this project for the day, and we can't wait to harvest this broccoli around Thanksgiving time. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. We're going to be following along with all these different types of projects we're doing. We'll be harvesting these together. So keep farming, you guys, even if it's in your yard, and we'll see you on the next one.